I need the Good Morning Seven podcast song. I don't have the. That's a bomb. I don't have the song on here. The Shut Up and Scribble when it starts like it's the Seven podcast, but it's really the Shut Up and Scribble. I was cracking up yesterday. It's gonna be Greg and I today. Sevon's traveling. He's headed to Newport, then he's headed to Greg's. So we should have some fun. Thinking of some stuff that we don't normally talk about. We have Greg on. Let's see if he'll walk the path of the NSCA case. Or I love talking to him about the early days of coaching when he was coaching down in Santa Cruz, and even before that. I love the early stuff. So good morning, everybody. We're gonna get into it. Greg should be here shortly. Yes, that's the announcement. We're buying CrossFit back together. Show's over. Go celebrate. Oh man. Christine Young, hi, good morning. You're going on the Street Parking Podcast. That's cool. I am. Exciting, right? I was so surprised when they reached out and asked if I would join them on their show. I was obviously flattered, stoked. But like double checked. I was like, did they mean to send this to Sevon? I just forgot to put him on the thread. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to Miranda and Julian on. It'll be Friday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. A lot of you guys don't know this. This book here, Evolution in Science: California Dreaming to America Awakening. It's written by Greg's dad. Boy's thick. But I've been getting into this book a little bit, and one of the things I wanted to read to you guys real quick. Oh, yes, a reading. Where's Standy? God, she's probably hating this. It's short. It's short. Get over it. So there's a dedication. It says dedicated with empathy to those who strive for personal excellence. Dedicated with admiration to those who achieve it. Dedicated with the nicest memories to that example of excellence set by Ray B. Potter, physics teacher. George Washington High School, Los Angeles, circa late 40s and early 50s. He provoked thinking with signs like these hanging in his classroom. Provoked thinking with signs, not provoked ideology with flags. Oh, what? Sorry. Sevon. Sorry. There are, okay, so here's the quote. Here's what I wanted to read, this portion of it. I just wanted that dedication page first. And this is like right at the beginning of the book. There are very few who really think among the thinking few. The others don't think at all. They only think they do. Great. Good morning, sir.
Buddy, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I was getting into this a little bit, and it jumped off. Like, literally, you open the page, and it's the dedications. And I was reading the first portion of it about, that little piece that I said as you were coming onto the show there. And it's awesome. And the dedication alone to excellence, those who admiration for those who achieved it, people who are going after it. It's cool. It's great. I'm digging into it a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Even
That first page, I was laughing because it's gives the dedication to the high school here, and I was just cracking up because it says like he provoked thinking with signs like these hanging in his classroom, and I was laughing because provoked thinking, not ideology with flags. Boy, have we changed, huh?
Yeah. Yep. There's a whole subculture that that forewarned nearly all that we've been through, and except for maybe the very current period. I'm not sure how that pans out in the long term. But the 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 very Orwellian speak of the left had all of the flavors and elements that were explained in the 30s, 40s, 50s by a whole host of intelligent writers.
Yeah. Have you what's the book called? The Longest March? I think it was. And it talked about a little bit of like it was almost reminiscent of like the rock and roll in the 60s ushered in the sex revolution, which kind of cut the path for a lot of those ideologies that you're speaking of.
Yeah.
So how are you this morning? How's the
I'm good,
routine?
man. I'm good. I'm going to recommend a book I have before. It's a Pump House Game by Thomas Wolfe. And it was young kids in the 60s in La Jolla that were hanging out. And some of them were garage surfing, post high school kind of kids.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought that there was something wrong with a generation of kids that didn't know their grandpa's first name, or that he served in war and they couldn't tell you what branch.
Man.
And he's like, I don't know what good comes of this, right?
Yeah, no good. Yeah, that's it's interesting too, as far as like people looking into like you have this younger generation that almost feels that if they look into the past or they celebrate some of the successes of that generation, it's almost all viewed as like racist or this like, oh, those were the oppressors oppressing the whole entire time. And we can't stand on their success at all because it's negative, it's wrong.
And yet, has every generation been kind of a doomsaying generation?
Always.
Yeah.
I think our latest one now is this meteor coming in like 20 or 30 years where the percentages are increasing over the days. Have you heard about that?
No.
Yeah, so there's this meteor catastrophic, if it hits Earth, and at first it was like 0.000 something percent, and then a month or two went by and they recalculated it and they said, oh no, now it's at 1% of hitting or 2% of hitting the Earth and by 2045 or something. And so I always wonder, which is this our generation's doomsday?
People aren't comfortable unless there's something to worry about.
Absolutely. I mean, fear is a motivator. I had this quote that was written down that I talked about a week or two ago. It says there's two levers to moving men: self-interest and fear.
Where'd that come from? I've seen it before.
It's a Napoleon Bonaparte quote.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's so true, right? When all of a sudden it's like, I still remember the whole American dream where you had this chance at success. If you went to school, you did the right things, you got to the college, you kind of got the corporate job, and then, you got the white picket fence and everything that came with it. And it's almost seemed like as soon as they're like, wait, they're not believing that anymore. Okay, crank that fear up. What do we got? We got a climate problem. We got a meteorite. What do we need to do here?
Matt, did you ever see, I'm going to presume you did, the video? It was from Brazil, and it was a kind of an upscale neighborhood, a bunch of people sitting around under the Chinzano umbrellas, kind of cafe like sidewalk deal. Mm-hmm. And some CrossFitters came running by. Mm-hmm. And it caused a panic within the restaurant.
Yes.
And at the end, we've got tables being knocked over and old ladies flattened, and it's like people are running for their lives.
Yes, yes.
It was a buffalo stampede amongst human beings caused by it. Might as well have someone been driving by with a flag. We caused a cattle stampede once with an inner tube tied onto the back of a van. It was flapping around, and the cows just like jumped out of their hooves. I mean, like lost their shit.
It's so funny in that video that you talk of. It's funny because you have one person who kind of looks and it all catches their attention. And I think there's like one or two people that kind of do this, and as they go, it's like the other two get up, and next thing you know, like you said, it's like the place clears out, tables are knocked over, not a tab was paid.
Yeah.
And it's just the 8 a.m. class warming up or 8 p.m. class warming up with a 200-meter jog.
Right.
Oh man, I was talking a little bit.
Everyone needs to imagine that. I've seen it from CrossFitters running by in a restaurant of looks like well-educated and semi-well-to-do people. Imagine the potential in the public health space. Oh. And if you can't, well, just think back as we did it. We just did exactly that.
Wow. Wow. You're right. It turned into a, hey, what's over there? Maybe we'll just take 2 weeks to flatten the curve. To next thing you know, the country's flipped upside down and the cities are burning and businesses are closing. And
Stunning.
yeah, it's amazing how quickly that descends into chaos, doesn't it?
The sudden onset of a repugnant or failed ideology and then its disappearance
Mm,
is odd to me. I'm almost as dismayed by the sudden evaporation of the DEI thing as its onset. I didn't
yeah.
understand why it came, and I don't understand why all of a sudden it's going to go away. It didn't make sense when it was arriving. It didn't make sense while it was here, and now it's going away, and it never made sense. And I don't know how much celebrating I'm supposed to do.
And how much money got dumped into that as they're finding out now,
When does it come back?
huh? Unfortunately, we don't know where it's at. So never.
Right? Or what it is. What the fuck was that?
Yeah, or who exactly it helped to a degree that turned around and contributed to humanity in a way that made some sort of lasting impact.
Well, what I'm seeing, and this is always strange for me, is that some of those that were so supportive in all of this are themselves like, yeah, that was weird, huh? I'm like, what do you mean it was weird, huh? It was you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how quickly people would like to forget their involvement or participation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I always get it because I was kind of the last of the Mohican over here in terms of the experimental vax. And I remember family members pleading, being like, well, come on, don't you want to travel? You're making such a big deal. Aunt Betty's scared and you're supposed to stay at her house and she doesn't know. To all of a sudden, did you hear all the things that are going on? I cannot believe they would press that on us. It's like, it was you.
It's funny.
I always enjoy whenever I get.
You hear Comey was pulled an off the record honeypot thing on the Trump folks.
Right.
Did you catch that?
No.
Yeah, that was this story this morning that a whistleblower has come forward from the FBI and says that Comey had an off the record registered in none of our official, because in other words, there was no evidence for it. A honeypot operation against high-level Trump people with two female assets that belong to the FBI.
Insane.
Which is, it all sounds criminal.
Very criminal.
Yeah.
Very. Do you think that they'll actually, as they unwind all this stuff, do you think people will be held accountable? Or do you think there's so many layers of protection in this that they're kind of expose it and like this DEI, it'll kind of just go away?
No, Matt, at my age and given kind of the political philosophy, some would call it an ideology. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But given the philosophy that I espouse, wisdom kind of equates with skepticism. And so no matter how good things get, I'm going to, wait, because this other shit's going to come back any day now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for the next DEI storm. I'm not shooting confetti cannons and jumping up and down and crying alligator tears of it's all gone.
Yeah. Going back to how you were saying it's almost as weird as it went away as quickly as it did as it came in. Just to go back to as you were saying, the George Orwell type thing, it's like how they would switch the enemies, right? It was all of a sudden the banners would just switch up on the TVs and everybody would go along with it. And I wonder if this is just the other side of that.
In the space of 30 months, stupid ideas, repugnant ideas, unethical schemes became sacred.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, look at the abandonment of judging someone by the quality of their character, not the color of their skin.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes your skin is your destiny and yours is the wrong color, asshole.
That's right.
Fast without a sense of irony or none of it. There's not. We didn't even have an Orwellian moment of snickering available.
Right.
It was at the door. It's kind of amazing. It's kind of amazing. I now, more than I used to, which was a lot. I mean, Mulvaney's the one that said, "Yeah, man, the left, when given a chance, will ends up piling bodies like cordwood
Yep.
if given a chance." That was his takeaway from Hayek. That was a wonderful book report. But they're the left. It's not capable of atrocity. It's inclined to atrocity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And with the threats that were made as far as
While I've got binoculars and a microscope looking for Nazis, I got them.
shutting you inside of your house, telling if you don't take the thing, you're going to lose your job. You know, you got to listen to what we say.
Controlling what I post on Facebook, and wanting me to stand in line for a shot I don't want.
Mm-hmm. That you need to get to keep your job.
Will score eligible for me to visit fucking Costco.
I got kicked out of ice skating rink for not having mine. Do you have your card? No. You can't ice skate outdoors? No. Wow. Okay. It's amazing how quickly we are to forget. And I always think about that. We often need to be reminded more than we need to be taught a lot of times. And
yeah, I think that's why I'm keeping myself off the celebration committee. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. You've been there before. You've seen it.
We got Bobby's in there good now, and we got Jay Bhattacharya, and fantastic. Let's watch. Let's see.
Yeah.
I have expectations. I'm going to share this on the public health thing because there's no way around it. I know you're in that space wonderfully and brilliantly even. But again, I've got 30 seconds tolerance on the subject of chronic disease. And you got to say something about sugar or glycation, insulin resistance, some fucking thing. If you don't get to the heart of that insulin glucagon axis damn near off the bat, my disappointment runs to suspicion that you're part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly accidentally, perhaps deliberately. It happens within just a minute or so of ramble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we need to all post up somewhere and watch the 350-pound people waddle by and think to yourself, that's not pesticides, that's not microplastics, that's not genetically modified organisms, that's not fucking seed oil.
Mm-hmm.
And do I think those are things that we have a need for? Do I think those are positives? Far from it. But is that the place to start? Only if you want to see things only get worse. Don't paint a fucking dirty car.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Let's wash it first. What if it doesn't need painting? And so often that is the case. At a nice euglycemia, at a true blood sugar, and some exercise, problems go away. Crazy problems go away. Problems go away that you weren't made privy to until they went away. That's a standard kind of trainer experience, right?
Yeah. Yep. And it's incredible because, to your point, when so we have right now, my wife runs this 8-week. It's basically just an immersion into a CrossFit protocol because there's no diet, there's nothing like that, but you track your food, you know, you cut out all the carbs, we cut out the alcohol, we cut out the sugar. And they're 6 weeks into it right now, and somebody had wrote in and said, hey, I finally got my insulin control and they reduced my dosage. And they say if I stay on this path, I won't need it anymore. And it's amazing, right? Because I've heard that a lot over my 12 years of owning an affiliate and stuff like that. But every single time it makes its way through the text message thread that I have with all my coaches, and you would have thought that it was the first time we've ever experienced that. I mean, and even the conversations as we pass each other into the gym. Hey, did you hear about Chris Ann? Yeah, she's reducing her insulin. Yeah, they say that if it stays this way, she might get off it altogether.
Yeah, that doesn't get old.
It doesn't. And I tell you what, we didn't actually measure the amount of red dye that she was eating in her diet or seed oils prior to that intervention. In fact, we didn't discuss it. We said, get off the carbs, get off the packaged food, ditch the sugar, exercise 3 times a week, coming into here with your group, and eat the protocol that we've laid out in front of you.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, there you go.
You know, if someone came to me and said, I play squash 3 days a week, I ride my bike to work, and I don't care, paleo, carnivore, zone, you know, pick. And they're interested in working with me, I'm keenly interested in the client. Am I keen to have a public health discussion with them? No. No. Do I think I can improve their squash game? No, I fucking know I can. Of that, I'm positive. Do I think that I'm going to improve their life expectancy? No, I do not. I think they're on the smart side of healthy with carb restriction and activity that 99% of it's done. Can I make them a better squash player? Much better. They're a little different, right? Different. But that's kind of the coolness of the space. And so the off the carbs, off the couch, there's so much there. There's so much turf covered, and so much potential for improvement in health. That axis, that insulin glucagon axis, it's so impactful of all of the other hormonal axes, and the functioning of the organism. It's such an essential thing that repaired gives a different scale to everything else that you might want to look at, including seed oils, microplastic, genetically modified organisms, or a fucking vaccine.
You're right.
Or two.
General was saying here, you ditch the carbs and the sugar, and you're very likely to eliminate a lot of the red dye and seed oils. And that's exactly Greg's point. That's
For a fact.
Exactly Greg's point. I wonder too, and you know what? So I don't know if you've seen much of them, like the Callie and Casey means. But at first I was like, okay, cool. And you know what's funny too? Just as I digress for a moment, but every time I hear that, I'm like, what the fuck? Did they just read the L1 that Greg put out 20 years ago yesterday, and now they somehow got a shot at Rogan, and they're just, they're reciting it. They're almost there. They're almost there, but not quite. And when I was first listening to them, I'm like, okay, cool. It seems like they get it. And the more exposure they got, the more I heard a call to action to their partner, to their protocol, the more the conversation moved away from the off the carbs, off the couch, just to bucket that into that heading. And it moved into the arbitrary, seed oils and the microplastics, and it's really hung out there since. Do you think, and maybe I'm just putting my conspiracy theory hat on, do you think once that allure, that popularity or something gets involved with these high profile type people, that the mission almost goes secondary, and it's more or less like yes to brands, yes to deals, and yes to getting on to the next layer of a show that's going to give me more exposure and less about the movement over time?
I will a few things, and let me know if I do a good job of answering your question here. The sophistication of the food industry players, and I don't want to sound obtuse here. I'm talking about, if you want someone to stare at, American Beverage Association.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at any of these powerful organizations, and the sophistication of their operation is mind-boggling, and the amount of money they spend. And when they go knocking on doors at like the Keller Corporation, and build these organizations, these proxies, and they litigate and they legislate and they build these wonderful campaigns, and they have intelligent people in the graphics field that make their websites, and they get fantastic names on the masthead. And hell, it's energy balance. I mean, that sounds good to me. And it sounds like such good shit. And you see enough of it, and it kind of distills to this for me. I'm smart enough now, and I've seen enough of that, to tell you how I would play the hand at, say, American Beverage Association.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be hard pressed to imagine it being played other than this. Okay, if someone wants to make a big stink about microplastics, I'm going to give them money. And then someone at my companies would go, "Hey, idiot, don't you know half the shit that we sell comes in plastic fucking bottles, or we're part of the problem?" I go, "Shh, let's give them some money. Let's get them going. Let's fan this guy's flames. Microplastics guy, genetically modified organisms. Give them some money. I'm going to give them some money. Pesticides. We've got a pesticide problem. We got the sugar cane thing. Shh. I'm going to give them some money. And I'm gonna fund the fuck out of everything except anyone that wants to talk about sugar and its impact on our physiology, especially with kids. Around those people, I'm gonna make their lives hell. I'm gonna make sure the New York Times and BuzzFeed and everyone else writes shitty shit about them. And God, that's cheap and easy to do. In the New York Times lifestyle section of the newspaper, you're going to find out horrible things about yourself and everything around you. I'll make those people's lives go to hell. But if you'll sing in unison, like teaching the world to sing in 3-part harmony, if you'll toe the party line and harp a bunch of other shit other than that, I'll keep you in the public eye. I'll give you grants. I'll help you do some science. And that's the state we're in. And so if you get up there and you got a lot to say about pesticides, and you got a lot to say about microplastics, and you got a lot to say about genetically modified organisms, and you keep harping on about highly processed foods, highly processed foods. You're not talking about sugar. I have a big problem with you. I have a problem with the lost opportunity. I'm suspicious as hell as to where every cent you fucking get comes from.
Mm.
You remember that? You seen that thing where the chick's got the nail in her head? And she wants to talk about everything but the nail in the head? That's the problem.
Yep.
That's exactly the story. How many people know this? Fucking a tons. I'm watching them get old and die.
Mm-hmm.
Generation after generation that knows, that understands. We saw where the sugar people, the people that were, the cardiologists that were onto the sugar thing got paid the equivalent of, what is it, 50,000 in current dollars, $4,000 to change the focus to fat. We've seen it. I mean,
yeah.
This is all part of the public record now. Who cares? Very few people.
Mm-hmm. And here's the question that I have, right? Because when you guys, when you were first doing the L1, and I mean, I still just, the numbers of CrossFit, the brand, and the scaling of that seminar are probably something still that just need to be studied, in the way that it grew from where it grew globally is just insane. But as that was growing, did you ever feel any like pressures to change any of that? Was it tough just to keep it as its core, at more people got involved and everybody, hey, Greg, you should add a mental fortitude piece, or we should talk about happiness in the L1, or whatever they're putting together now? But did you feel any pull to change any of that? Was there pressures coming when that was happening at all?
I think there was a certain intransigence to evolve or tweak, and I may have been a source of that. I mean, there's some well-known instances of me going, "What the fuck is this?" and it disappears. You know, we had some art built on the squat that, and it was this. It was that lifting world's talking about the importance of the hamstring activation, and the line was used about like shutting the car door with your butt.
Mm-hmm.
And that has a distinct no leg flexion, hip back, uh, uh, angle of the shin with the ground, to speak in the vernacular, opens, right?
Yep. Yep.
And that's not at all right. At the very instant of leg flexion, I need some hip flexion. The goal is to keep the sum of the vectors at zero in that movement. And I saw that chart, and I was like, what the fuck, where does this come from? I mean, I was in a panic, and I didn't even have to hear the presentation. And it was interesting because it was during this time, before I had seen it, I had a wonderful meal with Swifty, with Matt Swift. And he was asking me if I thought that our cues had the potential to interfere with mechanics. And I said, well, of course it has that potential. And I had some favorites, and he was trying to tell me something, but didn't. And it wasn't later that I was like, I bet it was that fucking post that, there must be some internal discussion for someone to suggest, let's let the first motion of the squat look like shutting that car door with a little push back without any leg flexion.
Mm-hmm.
And you might argue that, and people did, that's just the cue I used to keep them from bringing those knees way too far forward, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've got slight tolerance for that. And the thing that you'll hear is that with that and maybe an elevated heel, I can catch the glutes and hamstring and then work away from that. I can evoke their participation or some such kind of nonsense. But basically, it was all just ill-conceived. Now that was an instance of me reaching in, but hey, look, I've mentioned this before on this podcast, that we did the fruit and a starch switcheroo on the fundamental thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the moment when it was being cornered by Lustig, who had to share with me that they had sequestered a bunch of fat kids and let him have everything except fructose. And much to his chagrin, every one of scores of markers moved in the right direction. Ones that he was shocked to see move in the right direction. That is that the nightmare of Pringles was of a different quality than the nightmares of sugar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I always tell the people, like when I go and speak with the firefighters and stuff, I said, hey, if the packaging says, yeah, I bet you just can't have one. So they're not saying that because they just hope. They chemically engineered it for that purpose. So please, they're warning you right there. Yeah, it's just funny because my experience as a trainer, when I was first started, let's call it the first 5 years, I thought I needed all these bells. I needed the Kelly Starrett mobility and his whole toolbox. And the second I noticed somebody's squat, I was coming with all this stuff. And then I needed, these agility things. And the further along I went and the more people I worked with, the more I honed in my craft, I started ditching all of it. And I was like, we don't need any of this. And I was listening to something of yours in 2017. It was the CrossFit podcast, actually. And you were talking about functional movement screenings for functional movement. And it was articulated so perfectly. And you were like, I'm teaching the functional movement. What the fuck do I need to screen it first for? I could do it. I could see it. I know what the issues are, and we're going to work towards making it better. And it just resonated so well with me, because I was thinking to myself, like, looking back on some of the stuff that I'd done in the past with embarrassment, of how much this extra I thought was needed. And I could only just imagine, you still see it to this day. I think you guys discussed it on the podcast, the John Wellborn, when he was like, don't mistake work capacity for athleticism. And you were like, I don't even know how to answer that, because I'm unsure of the question. But we still see things like that. And I imagine it was a lot in the early days. So to stay true to that message and weed through all that noise, is something that I've obviously learned to do over the years. But it was from your teachings, because there were characters in the space that were allowed to come and contribute, gave them the platform, gave them the things. But the second it started to brush up against the core of the material, I could always tell that that's probably where the friction started to come with some of those individuals.
Yeah, and I can help. I can be Johnny's shrink here pretty publicly for a bit. He look at him. Football came with enthusiasm and excitement, all right? And I'm sure that the lack of enjoyment he would have had on the pommel horse, and I can promise you it would have been an unpleasant experience for him. He had more of that than he enjoyed at CrossFit.
Mm.
And the idea of those being athletes just gets in his craw like so few things would. And we live, he is in the community, the CrossFit community, at the competitor level, not on the chronic disease side, not on the successful affiliate side. He's out there with the people that are listening to the games community.
Mm-hmm.
It's in that community where he's held outside of NFL fans as being a non-athlete. No matter how accomplished he was in the NFL, he was quite accomplished in the NFL. But the people who see that as being a function of being 6'5" and closer to 400 than 350 pounds.
Mm-hmm. It after those statements were made, I think yesterday, our buddy Andrew Hiller made a video correcting our friend John there. Pretty well done, based off of statements that you were saying and statements that John were saying, and let's just say it didn't fare too well for John.
He doesn't need it. He doesn't need attacking. He's a well-intended.
No.
I like the John that, I remember being in a grocery store in Newport Beach and seeing one of his clients, unbelievable body, right? And wearing a t-shirt, to just doing an absolutely incredible job of advertising a t-shirt that said, "Go fuck CrossFit Newport Beach, go fuck yourself." All in Gothic letters with like different, bike on it, right? CrossFit, I think it was Newport Beach. I don't want to impugn anyone, but whatever. It was John's box, and their motto was "Go fuck yourself." Okay, and I was asked to do something about that, and I wasn't going to do it, And then within like a 2-year period, he's met some gal, and he's like got Jesus in his heart in a big old way. And you can get thrown out of the gym now for saying shit. Get thrown out, bam.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I too. I'm good with it. That's good.
He's one of the ones that kind of.
And the the chick with the "Go Fuck Yourself" T-shirt and the magnificent titties, she may not be there anymore. That's okay, you know. I don't. That wasn't what I was doing. I wasn't like sorting that out in life.
Right.
I was gonna make sure that the "Go Fuck Yourself" chicks in Newport Beach grocery store with the nice titties were playing nice with the people that thought you were going to hell because you'd said shit in the gym.
That's incredible.
All in one guy. All in one guy. And then,
Yeah.
and he's like, but the thing common to both the guys though is I was doing it wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot of the people that haven't come close to accomplishing anything in the sphere of you had telling everybody else how you did it incorrectly. That's one of the most amazing things.
You know, it wasn't so much that I was accomplishing anything or that they had accomplished nothing, which could be certainly be pointed out, but it was that I was doing something that never been done before. And I don't know what that doing that wrong looks like.
It's interesting the outside opinions that will come from, like you were saying, something that hadn't been done before. It's like, but yeah, here they come with telling you, oh, well, you should do it this way, and you're an idiot because you weren't doing this, and you're leaving the money on the table here and there, and yeah, it's
I should collect a list of those things from the barfing clown.
Yep.
I've mentioned on this show before, I'll do it again, that Rob Wolf had gone in Chico to the SBA and they'd taken a look at the website, and this concept's going nowhere with all those guns on the site. Like guns on the site, and it was like we had soldiers on the pictures. Yep, all those guns, openly advocating shooting people.
Yeah.
I was told you can't charge $1,000 for a seminar. It has to be $999.99. And I go, why is it got to be that? And it was just everyone in the room knew, but me, because nobody knows that's $1,000, dude. Don't be stupid. And I was like, man, if there's someone out there that doesn't know that $999.99 is $1,000, I certainly don't want them fucking holding a certificate that I've signed.
I would have done it, but it's that penny that made the difference for me. Look at this guy charging $1,000. He should have charged his $9.99s.
We were told we had to do a value-added tax on seminars or affiliation, whatever. And like, you know, how are you going to announce that? And I was like, it's going to say plus value-added tax with a little asterisk to check with your local government. I mean, that gets passed on, right?
Right.
My rates didn't go up. Your country's taxing you.
Still $1,000.
Yeah, that's not my part.
And one thing I was thinking about too, and I've heard, obviously, I've studied you from afar for years, and there's one thread that has remained consistent in a lot of the talks you were given, regardless of the environment and the time. And going back to your father's book, it was like one of the things that you open it and you start reading about it, and it's right there. And it's this pursuit of excellence. There's no talk of we're going to change this, or I have this grand gesture of this, or this is going to make us this ton of money, or it's honing in on the craft and then the pursuit of excellence within that. And where did that, like, how did that arise? Was that something that was just in the family? Did you openly discuss this? Was it kind of just this, like, where did that come from?
I mean, thank you. And I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be the one someone that could answer that. But I know that in our space, trying to fix the system is a very different thing than paying attention to the person. And I also see that again, even upstream in with a focus between my homeschooling and the broken science. I think we've got about 99% of what I have time for intellectually.
Mm-hmm.
But even on the broken science front, the discussion is annoyingly always circles around to fixing the system. And I don't see fix. And I was trying to describe, I'm more interested in the pathology of the current state of affairs than I am in its treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And my problem with current treatments, in fact, like almost everything that I see going on in the meta science world and in those looking at the replication crisis, is they don't yet, as of yet, don't have full understanding of the pathology. And so I think there's a clinical pathology on broken science that needs to happen long before there can be a discussion as to what a corrective might be. Very much in the way that I find myself impatient with discussions about chronic disease that don't have to do with getting off the carbs and off the couch.
Mm-hmm.
I can make that more complicated, and I could make it simpler, and there's nothing I can do to make it easy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing in my efforts that suggest a new national flag or a new poster at NIH.
Yeah.
I don't even know who knows that fucking food pyramid comes out of not Health and Human Services, but the United States Department of Agriculture.
And then has been used time and time again by the food companies for lobbying and subsidy purposes to continue to usher it into schools and communities and so on and so forth.
I would expect the American Beverage Association, oddly as it sounds, to have a closer relationship with the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the National Institutes of Health than any of you do with your Aunt Mildred or Uncle Joe.
I think this too, just to go back to the point with excellence and just my own personal experience with it. When I first got the contract for the first fire department, all of a sudden I was like, this is it. This is my lotto ticket, baby. I'm gonna scale this. And my mind went to like this whole business thing of like, well, what do I need to spin up and how do I make this work and get it? And at that time, I don't think I ever got further away from getting contract number 2 than then, because all of a sudden my focus went to scaling this. What do I need to put in place with this? What does this system need? And I took my eye off the ball of the excellence and just every single firefighter that comes in front of me, I'm going to pour everything I have into training that individual, educating that individual, and making them as capable as I can for their job. And I spoke with somebody who is very successful in the VC world and everything else, right? And I'll never forget this term, which I later found out was just kind of a pat on the head and a send you on your way. And I remember I was talking to him and he goes, yeah, I think, Matt, what you got here is a great lifestyle business. And just keep kind of doing your thing locally. And I was kind of like, okay. And I remember thinking, yeah, fuck, there's nothing there. And then the more I went back to some of your stuff, and I just kept hearing it's the excellence. Don't put one foot in front of the other. Care more than anybody else. Give them everything you can. I went back to that and forgot about the business side. And lo and behold, what happened? Another fire department came. A couple years later, they flew me out for a pitch in Ohio. And then now I'm working with the Livermore Police Department as we're feeling our way out to figure out how I could serve them as well. And it just was funny how the second I forgot about scaling it, said, screw it. There's no need to scale it. I'm just going to keep working here. And when people have hit me up from other states, hey, I'm a battalion chief here, or hey, I'm an affiliate owner here. How did you do your thing? And I've just given it away every time. And they're like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I say, hey, if you do the thing and you get the data, I said, send me the data and keep me up to date on it. Let me know how it's working. Let me know what you used. And outside of that, if you give me credit for it, great. Give me credit for it. If not, whatever. But change the lives of the responders in front of you. Make your community better by empowering those who help the people. And yeah, it was just so now I never think about that, the scaling and the building and the structure of the business. It's more or less of like, how could we improve the work? And it's funny how it ends up working itself out.
Yeah. What I explained at Harvard Business School was that in many regards, markets are unknowable, while excellence is obvious to everyone. And as a beacon, it's there every time you look. And the strategies for compensation kind of shift. They and then you get the story that of businesses, startups that required overnight redirecting and found success after that. And I know of a couple of those where confronted with worst case scenario news. I mean, a startup that was already in a second round of funding, driving a technology that a Fortune 100 had internally resolved to be a dead end. They got these wonderful friends of mine got to do this, sit down with the people from Sprint and get shown where the math of this led. And they kind of regrouped and rethought it and reapproached, and their offering was intriguing enough to get away from file storage to management, learning a great lesson from their ways, and took another shot at it, and it turned into a 10-figure sell. I mean, right in front of everyone's eyes. Crazy stuff. And what got him there? God, it was that persistence. Philippe Kahn told me, and he has gone from serial billionaire. He told me that if he could have seen the troubles that lay ahead of each of his startups, he wouldn't have started. And they all hit pay dirt with a Fortune 100 buyout in 9 or 10 figures.
Yeah. Like if he knew the problems he had to solve and the effort
vision, he would have been paralyzed. I fully understand that. I fully understand it. And this is what makes excellence kind of easy. This is what makes the Philippe Kahns and the Zuckerbergs and the Musks. You drive off that. It's like, not sure, like the fucker wants to go to Mars. Does that sound like a business? Yeah, when the US can't functionally launch shit, you can just do that. It's like taking out the trash if you're going to Mars. Putting a satellite in orbit and going to Mars,
Yep.
And what's he doing? Launching it? What? I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. What, 15, 20 satellites at a time? Like some kind of flying insect shitting eggs.
Figured it out.
He figured it out.
Yeah. It's an obsession over like problem solving. And you mentioned Philippe, and is that and forgive me if I have this wrong, is that the gentleman who you were training and in the garage and writing the articles?
Indeed.
And so that's kind of where I was leading to with this. Like when you were sitting there and you're waiting for him and you're writing these things down and you're developing your articles, I also remember you talking about this pressure of like trying to put one out once a month. And as the month got closer to the end, you're like, just don't talk to Greg, don't touch me. He's trying to work through that last little bit to publish out that journal article. Um, were you ever at any point in time thinking, cool, I'm going to build a business off of this, or this is going to change an industry, or like, what were the thoughts in your head as you were putting pen to paper for what it is you were doing with your clients?
We were collecting revenue on this journal, and I had to deliver on it. I mean, there was that, and so it felt like job for sure. And it you know it bore my name, and I'd been doing this a while, and I felt that if there were any way to gauge my sense of things against anyone others, I would prevail. And I wanted to capture that in writing, and I feel pretty proud of that work. I think I did the job.
Yeah.
And Philippe and Sonia Khan were certainly, you know, I owe them quite a bit for, you know, I told her my rate was $75 an hour. And she says, well, okay, well, we'll see you tomorrow. And I said, great, here's my address. She says, no, you're going to come to my house. And I said, God, ma'am, I'm so sorry. You don't understand. I don't do house calls. And she says, I'll double your rate and pay your travel. I go, all right, I'll be there tomorrow. I didn't even get a fucking car. But now it's $150 an hour. And what, I'm going to walk? I'm going to be rich by the time I get there, right?
Yeah. Has it
figured it out?
Yeah, and that's what I say. So when opportunities like that came across, especially in the early days, was there any vetting system for you? Was that just it? Like just how much time it was going to take to say yes or no?
I wanted that client. There was word of a you know, quintuple XL billionaire in our little burg of 3 gas stations. And so I'm like, man, that sounds like you should be my guy.
Mm-hmm.
I had his clients, I had his employees both in the sailing world and in the tech world across 2 different tech companies. And so I was regaled with personal and professional stories of the man and felt like I knew him. And the idea that there would be someone willing to be athletic with such a strong personality, weighing in at 400 pounds and capable of addressing it. And here I am, given what I know, it seemed to you know, our fates should be intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was telling people that were heavily reliant on him professionally, whether they were gold medalist sailors or tech titans working deals, that he's not going to survive. That if you really care about him, you know, someone should call me. And I had accused everyone that I was pushing this message of not relaying it forward. And it was pretty bothered by that. And then I later come to learn that they all had.
Wow.
That all of my entreaties had been registered. And yes, you say he's going to fucking die. Yeah, that he was hearing all of that. There's a guy in the gym says, you're not going to make it. And that we're all going to get fired when you croak. I was like, me? Yeah.
I might have mentioned it to a few people. I'm glad it got around to you.
Anyone that mentioned his name, I'd like, yeah, you work for him. I hope you appreciate your job. Because when you die, she's gonna get rid of the company and you're toast.
And that's just the truth of the matter, though, too.
What do you think her interest in sailing is?
0.
Right.
And I don't even know the woman. I could tell you that she's probably not into that hobby, right?
Great family. It was an enormous opportunity getting to work with them. and
Yeah.
it gave me opportunity to give back to the rest of the world. And so while making $150 an hour, I'd sit there in the garage for hours. Oh, and the people I met, music legends. I mean, he recorded an album. I don't even gonna say the names. It's funny. He's embarrassed by it. Every name on it except his is like world a legend. And he told me it's the golden rule. Like, what's that? He goes, the guy with the gold makes all the rules.
Ain't that the truth? Bring in all these musical geniuses and get your name on an album with them, and are they gonna say no? Hell no. Let me
I
know when you need me to be there.
sit anywhere you want. The water bottle station's mine. I made out of Costco cases of water. I made like a desk and chair.
And that's the office, right?
That and the coffee shop in town, the Ugly Mug, where most of the early journals were done.
Yeah. And when you were training and stuff like that, like were you doing all the classes at first? Did you start by kind of building a staff in? Like, what did it look? Because I know the stories as you started in other studios, like, jujitsu gyms, and slowly you would be politely asked to leave, and as it would grow and eventually got your own space. Were you doing a lot of your own stuff then? And
Yeah,
how go
the,
ahead.
the class origins um, were a necessity in dealing with the jujitsu community. And so the Claudio Franza that owned the jujitsu school could afford me, and he had 300 students that could not.
Mm.
And at least that was the look of it. I mean, a bunch of these guys didn't even have shoes, right? They still don't, but whatever. And so I mean, look, I can teach you to do a thruster, and I don't care how you go up the fucking rope. You're a martial artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pretend like the floor is on fire. And pulling a rower handle is pretty easy. And that squat thing I taught you, now we're going to do a medicine ball and put it up on a pie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And get up on this box. I really don't care how. Me personally, I would jump, right?
Yep.
What else we got? I mean, and I'm going to blow the whistle, and that means you morons start. And when I go, then fucking stop and see if you can count, right? I mean, it's not that complicated. And put your $5 in the damn jar. Great group of clients. The MMA scene. There's an early CrossFit picture of a fight gone bad. And we'd done a fight gone bad workout, and then someone wanted a picture of it. And the thing about the layout is that no one had the photographic equipment. The lenses and cameras, and there's pre-digital, wasn't available to get a photo that really showed everyone doing everything. And so I had to get these fighters. I had to get the rower where you're rowing right next to someone's ass doing a wall ball who's box jumping just where you could reach out and move the box from the row. Just set it up like that and get a picture for it to look right. The oddest thing, but what's amazing is that there's a MMA Hall of Fame in the rower, jumper, wall baller. Crazy people were coming around from the very get-go.
Yeah. Yeah, I always just think how that style of training, especially as it started getting the light shined on it, it was like a magnet for anybody who wanted to become excellent in their sport. Like early on.
We had people on every card while the UFC was still nervous about keeping Nevada venue.
Yeah.
When Trump came to the rescue in Atlantic City. Well entrenched.
Yeah.
And it was a fantastic client base. the martial arts community and the MMA community were in many regards ideal clients, easier than physicians or triathletes or mountain bikers.
And you think it's just maybe because of the nature in which their training relied on their survival in the cage or not? Or
Yeah,
was it
I publicly said that the way triathletes and fighters train is stupid. And I got death threats from triathletes, reported death threats. One of them was a kettlebell enthusiast and a prosecutor in Philadelphia. And found him like
no
moron.
shit?
Yeah, moron. Thought he was anonymous. And the fighters came hat in hand. Help me, show me then. What do you think's a good workout? It looks like this, and they'd leave going, yeah, you're right. Fuck, you know. They knew right away. The only people that ever, like Josh Thompson's the only person that ever came in and with you know, I believe him and others that he had no exposure to Fran. Laid it out in 5 minutes something. You remember Josh Thompson?
Wow. No, I don't think I was familiar with him.
Great fighter, cocky kid, good, smart young man.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's funny how you hear a lot of these movements come together, especially in something that had such an impact globally, but in the fitness industry alone. And I'm always just fascinated by the start of how the whole thing rolls in and how it starts to grow. Is you're not going to find a manual for it. You can't go to Harvard MBA and learn these some steps and come back and create something like this. Like, it has to be organic, and there has to be a lot of, for lack of better words, serendipity involved in it. Like, there has to be this, like you said, the intertwine of Philippe and then these UFC fighters that are coming to it, and your continued pursuit of honing in the craft and the methodology and the excellence towards making it as robust and as complete and competent as it could be. It's like it needs all those ingredients to make something like that work.
I've tried with some friends to communicate. They'd ask me how you did it, and I go, I don't know, but in what sense you mean how? But you were there and saw it. And here's what I would do if I were challenged with your field. I'll just go specifically to Tony Blauer. And I said that the things I've learned from you are genius. I mean, I was there when the people at the air marshal system admitted that no one knew how to land a plane. I mean, that's fucking amazing to me, right? Or even and say, hey, the pilots are dead and so are the terrorists. Now what?
We're all fucked.
Big blank. And I go, you've really got something to offer. His gun retention drills and philosophy, all of that. I've seen audiences of FBI veterans pushed to one of his events, so resistant that it was obvious that the crowd was hostile. Make it impossible for him to leave the parking lot 8 hours later. Okay. And so there's something here. What would you do? And I told him, here's what I would do. And he'd never listen, never tried. Picking up stuff here. I said, I would take one of your ideas. Like, for instance, we had talked about you come home and your front porch light's burned out. So you reach up and you screw the bulb in and it comes on. Leave immediately. There's my post of the day. Go to your car and call 911.
Something's up and it ain't right.
That's all you need. Don't put the key in the hole. You got to go.
Don't investigate.
Nope.
Just go.
No,
you're done. We know it.
Time to leave.
Yeah.
And we played with that and like, can you come up with one of those every day? And I go, it's hard to, but what you do is you need to get 100 of them. And then you need to launch. And while those are queuing up and in your system, you need to get the rest of them. And before you can do 100, people will send you ones. Where do you keep your gun at bed at night? In the fucking safe? They find those people with their fingerprints and blood all over the safe, you know?
Right.
Like what
Right.
how do you do that? How do you juggle kids and weapons? And there's
Hmm.
intelligent things that have been done or being done. There's discussions to be had. There's stuff that can be posted. I couldn't communicate that. I couldn't communicate it. I'd had the same someone come at me about a home gardening effort. I'd feature some fucking plant or a disease or a pest every day of some interest to me that captured the vitality of this thing in a daily dose and asked for inputs. And if you're doing it right, someone's going to send you something. You go, wow, that's a great. I've never seen a coleus like that, especially with that fungus in that color. Right?
Yeah.
I feel, but I get it.
Yep. And then it starts to go. Did you give Kelly Starrett that same advice? Because he did that mobility wall daily thing for years.
I don't think my advice has ever deviated from what I'd really do if I wanted to introduce people to things.
Yeah. Yeah, because as you were saying that, I was like, that's exactly how I started to dabble with that. It was just it was on all the time. And then one of the times he posted something and I was like, hey, I found that useful and tried it and it worked. And next thing you know, I'm going back to it.
We look at all these things. We tell people just a second. I'll be there in an hour. There's 5 o'clock. There's a week. There's years. There's a lifespan. But in the end, it's diurnal. It's all day based. There's mornings, afternoons, and nights, and that I think is the rhythm of everything. And it's that workout of the day and the page calendar. Have you ever seen the desktop calendar that's a constitutional law in a year?
No.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I'm gonna have.
There's more there. It's something profound to think about legally every day for a year. You can't go through that and come out not impacted on the other side if there's anything working for you. And I think you could do that with any subject with the right group putting it together, whether it were entomology or civil rights.
Yeah.
If not, you have no business in the field.
Right. Right. Because you don't know it enough to be able to continuously do that and provide and build off of that, then you probably aren't educated enough on whatever it is you're trying to teach.
Correct.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I'm always trying to think too, like what different ways, and I utilize the 5 buckets of death as my opening for all the discussions when I go into the responders, because for me that just that opening of the lecture, seeing that visual, and then briefly discussing the willful divide, it's like, I mean, you can unpack it and expand that lecture as much as you want. But if you give me a minute in that visual, I'll hook you in, and then we'll start talking about solutions. I can move it right away to like, hey, and here's the protocol that we're going to implement that's gonna keep us away from that largest bucket. And
Matt, the opportunities within getting off the carbs and off the couch are physiologically, financially, structurally, in terms of religion, they're nearly infinitely flexible. The amount of things that I would approve of, I could put them in a hopper. And so what do we got? It's paleo and Pilates. Cool.
It's yeah, it's because I'm just trying to always think like what different ways, because now that I have a couple departments, like what different ways I could give them something of value, maybe on a weekly basis, or different things like that could start to provide that they could then share and do different things. So that's why I was kind of asking about that, because that definitely gave me some great ideas there as they continue to break that lecture into pieces and then break it into educational things and then provide solutions that I could send to them on a continuous basis.
I'm trying to do with my kids a chess puzzle a day.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a sentence to diagram daily. These are kind of at least efforts. And there's some things that are daily, like scales, music scales, but there's a scale of the week, but it gets daily.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
and the rhythm's there, and it's fun to say to the kids, what do you want to do first? And they'll be like reading or chess puzzle. And in the daily effort, there's a version of things that might take 30 minutes with just the quickest of exposures, but to be there. It's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. And it's a bite-sized chunk to be able to kind of learn something, really dig into it without having to worry about the grand total of the whole subject or feeling like you're stuck in that for multiple hours. And you can really play within that.
One step at a time.
Yeah, that's right. How is everything coming over at the house school? Everything's progressing nicely there?
Yeah.
Man, that place is so freaking cool.
Thank you.
There's certain environments that just inspire. And even though that one is still in the works of construction, it's definitely falls under that category. I mean, you cannot spend any time, and I was calling it the gym before, but I don't know if that does. I call it more the school now. But you cannot spend time in that school and not be inspired in some way to just dig into some sort of craft, whether it be in the art, whether it be in the exercise realm, whether music, whatever, or sitting at that. I can't wait to see that chalkboard in the forward classroom there. Man, it's gonna be awesome. But yeah,
it's gonna be fun. We've got a place where you can the kids can oil paint, play water polo, take jujitsu, or learn physics. Or it was, this is cool. So we're building out this wood shop, and Rhett asked, "Do you think we could make a chessboard?" And I just about pissed my pants, because that's every seventh grade project in wood shops all over the world. Right? So fucking skateboard. I mean, it's a chessboard.
Chessboard in a birdhouse.
Yeah, there you go. I think so. I think we can make a chessboard.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. That and you definitely have to. Do you think about curriculum for them at all? Is this something laid out? Are you developing? Are you just kind of just flowing with what interests you, what interests the kids, and certain core things you're teaching?
I decided that there exists in everyone some balance between knowledge and skills. And so you can imagine on the extremes, I've got the absent-minded professor who doesn't know where his keys are, nor his children's birthdays, but he can derive formulas in applied sciences with minimal effort, right? And then there's the Jeopardy champion. They can tell you who Napoleon's grandparents were, and may not have computational skills, right? May not be logical. And what I want to do, my philosophy of education is all skill-based. And so I want my kids learning skills. And they're so hierarchical, and we have a sequencing error, and it's kind of almost a lazy way to do things. But if you can't add or subtract, I'll figure that out quickly trying to teach you algebra. Right?
Yeah.
And if you can't factor, I have trouble getting you to add fractions with unlike denominators. Right? And so on the level of skills, and it's obvious when something is a skill or is not. And the naming of capitals, of states, versus being able to tie a bowline, it speaks loudly to me. But I like, for me, in my head, the example of my sister and the piano and my father. My sister, I think of her child as the dominant feature of it to me is arguing with my father over her playing the piano, fighting with my father over the piano. And she's 62 years old and has a piano and plays it every day and has forever since fighting with my father. And you ask her who was right and who was wrong. She's like, Dad, definitely, and it's like, Go to Joe Westerland. His kid's a champion at jiu-jitsu, a champion wrestler, a champion in academics. And people ask him, how can you make him do these things he doesn't want to do? And he said he wants to quit algebra too.
It's and you know it's funny the thing the piano story you talked about with Kathy there, because she laughed and she kind of smiled when you were talking about that with the group. And somebody leans over and goes, what, you think about that now and you enjoy piano, like what do you think about back then? And she goes, I just wish I would have spent less time arguing and more time practicing. And it's funny how that it always comes back around, right? Like, and when it's void of that, what ends up happening is you have a bunch of grown adults that look back and hear kind of some of the other children that were pushed, or maybe pushed was the wrong word, but guided and really leaned into their pursuit and saying, man, I'd never had anything like that. I wish I had. And I think that it's not to be taken for granted.
Well, ask me if I think his methods were first rate. I would suggest not. But had they been, is there a possibility that she would have not learned piano? I think that's entirely possible as well.
Mm-hmm.
It may be that, I mean, I can only speak from this. My capacity to resist my father's lessons is amongst my greatest accomplishments.
The nail story is amazing because you're like, all right, then he got me the first time and he's like, no, you need to go back and measure. You're like, okay, lock myself in there, play with the GI Joes for another hour or so. Yeah, what's the time? That seems about right. And what's funny too is like, when it came to anything academics that I wasn't interested in, that was the same thing that I played. It was like, and so I was a freelance illustration major. I went to Academy of Art University in San Francisco for a couple of years and did a lot of the live charcoal drawings and stuff. In any core class that we had to take, as far as like learning anything outside of the arts, typically what was me checking into the class and then walking around the neighborhoods of San Francisco while that class was going on, and avoiding it at all costs. And it's something that I reflect back on now, because I also wonder too, my time in the streets of San Francisco through these different hours and meeting these different randoms on the street, or just being immersed in that San Francisco street life for the hour or two, a couple times a week that was there. It was amazing some of the dumb shit I did just to avoid going to that class. And when you reflect back on it, you're like, wouldn't it have been easier just to sit through the English 101 than to walk the tenderloin of San Francisco? So I understand the jumping through the hoops to get out of anything that doesn't seem to be of interest. That's for sure.
I had been at San Diego State in maybe a third, a half attempt at finding some solid reason for being at the university. But I'd been there just a couple of weeks when someone told me about a place on campus that had pitchers of beer and amazing pizza. And that was like the end of San Diego State for me. I'm like, you're fucking kidding. On campus. No, it's right over there.
Well, you know where to find me. See ya.
Yeah, it's like I had my own table in no time. We were getting friends jobs there and shit, right?
Yeah. Those type of places are great, man.
I had a buddy run a business from a table in
there. Hey, those college towns are full of entrepreneurial opportunities, huh?
On Friday afternoons on campus, they clear out the cars and the dump trucks come in and lay out sand in the middle of intersections for the beach volleyball.
Mm.
And the campus ends up closed to traffic in large sections. The efforts made to support the partying culture are rather impressive. It's hard to imagine that surviving anyone's budget, but it was the lay of the land.
Hey, every school has to have its allure, right? The brand. You got to make sure it's on brand. Beach party. Oh man. Well, Greg, thank you, sir. I always
Well,
enjoy and glean a lot from our conversations and really appreciate your time. And I know you're going to be jumping over and getting the kids ready to go through that curriculum right now. So thank you, sir.
they
Appreciate you.
they have a sense of the time and they may be hiding. You know, is Sebby headed to Newport Beach or out here?
Yeah, that's right. So he's in. He told me I think he's going to go to Newport Beach, be there for maybe to the weekend. Then I think he's headed to you. I'm not sure how long he's going to be in Newport for though.
All right. Well, I'm gonna come up. I'm gonna come up and see the TreeNet Willie work and some other stuff soon. I'll be in Santa Cruz before too long. I'll hit you up.
Oh, please do. Yeah,
I
always come
love
out.
that. All right, buddy.
Absolutely. All right, Greg. We'll see you
Thank
soon, sir.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, you guys. Thank you. Everybody hanging out. Sorry, I know I didn't pull up a ton of these comments. I always just try to stay really focused when I'm chatting with Greg and finding the balance of what's going on now. And I love all the old stories. I know that like I always find the balance because I don't know how much he enjoys going back and like talking about the past or the origin of it too much, but I can never get enough of those. And I love to just draw similarities in like pattern finding across like what Greg did, some of these other things that I like dig into and study, and also to my own endeavors here. So I enjoy doing that. I hope you guys did too. Standy clearly didn't. Whatever, she's hard to please. High maintenance, you know what I mean? Claire, what's up? Congratulations on your engagement. I know that was like a month or so ago, but congrats. Colt Powers, not Cole, who calls me gay. Sorry, I got you mixed up last time. What else we got here? Matt Burns, surprised you're not gay, referring to San Francisco in the school. Me too. Barely escaped it, dude. Barely escaped it. Freelance illustration equals tagging. No. I actually freelance illustrated. I think I showed you guys that shit before, didn't I? You want to see something? I don't know. I never really even posted any of this before. Let's see. I got to scroll down. If it's not in my Instagram, it is not on there. Yeah, the discussions with Greg are awesome. I always need I Eaton Beaver. Good job. Thank you, dude. Appreciate that. Difficult to please does not equate to high maintenance. Isn't that the definition of high maintenance? Difficult to please. You always got to be doing something to like make sure you're good. I'm open to being wrong. Maybe just difficult to please is different. I don't know. Cody, great combo. Cool. Glad you guys enjoyed it. I love the talk of like when he was working with Philippe and like the early clients, and as he was putting together articles and it started to grow. And Dave Castro was on the new CrossFit podcast. If you guys have seen some of those episodes, it's coming out with Denise there. But Dave's was good. It took about 2 seconds, and then he just completely takes over the podcast. But he talked a lot about the early days with the seminar staff and like how that whole thing grew. And he was saying that Brian Mulvaney, who I believe was chief operations officer at the time, was saying, yeah, it's going to be crazy when these go from 2 to 3 a weekend to 15 of them a weekend. And Dave was saying he remembered laughing at that time, thinking like, no way in hell these things go to 15 a week, like doing 15 seminars in one weekend. And he was like, yeah, sure enough. He's like couple years later, we were doing like 15 or 20 of them a weekend. Man, this picture is blurry. This is on my Instagram. Okay, you guys want to see? So this is something I drew back in the day. So it wasn't just tagging Daniel. All right. So there's 3 different drawings in this. The first one that doesn't look as good as the rest over all the way to the right is just a freehand that was somebody on BART. We had to do a lot of different perspective drawings within a certain amount of time domain. So that probably was like a shorter time domain, maybe like 10 minutes or 12 minutes. So you had to kind of evolve your sketches at whatever, you guys don't care. And then to the left of that was obviously John Lennon. And that was just drawn off of a photo. And then the one all the way to the left, you can't really see it. That's another drawing, got the cigarette in his mouth, and that was a real life drawing and then a photo of a real life drawing. So there's like 3 different, Lennon. There are 3 different, styles there. So it was like one off of a photo, one off of a real thing, a real, person, and then a photo later to finish it, and then one just off of a real person. So there you go. That wasn't even, those weren't even some of the better ones. I did one of like, the Joker. Who was it that played the Joker? The Dark Knight? Hiller's in here. He'll remember. Jake Gyllenhaal? That's not right. Anyways, I drew one of those for my friends one time. Heath Ledger, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And, that was probably I don't even know how many hours I spent on that one. Maybe like 20 or something, and it was fucking solid. Framed it up, and I, like, gave it to my friend one time, and after he, like, left with it, I was like, "That was dumb. I don't know if I'll ever spend that long on a charcoal drawing again." And those were all done with charcoal. Uh, you guys wanna see something else? This is old. So, Daniel, here's to your point. This was allegedly painted years ago, and the crazy thing is a lot of these people, that I painted with are dead. Like, that street life catches up after a while. But yeah, anyways. Oh, wait. Yeah. Oh, wait. Made it in a book. Made it in a book. Bay Area graffiti book. Always set goals and everything I did like that. Like, it was always like when I wanted to be around the, skaters, like in high school when I was skating, it was like, how do I just get involved with the best group of skaters in Livermore? And like, even though I'm not as good as them, like, what do I have to offer to kind of get in with the group and add some value? That was like the sponsor me videos and filming them and stuff like that. And then when it came to a lot of the graffiti stuff, it was the same thing. It was like, how do I get involved with the best ones in the Bay Area? And there's some crazy stories about that. Oh, here, look at this. As we're just surfing down memory lane, check this out. Savon and I. It's funny because that's his camera that's set up, and then obviously there's just the makeshift podcast studio. I just set all that stuff up. That's my laptop and like the 2 mics that I brought and just plugged it in the computer and just recorded right there. I didn't even have an option to film it. I didn't have a camera. Maybe like a GoPro, probably that GoPro you guys saw in 14.5. Oh man, kind of cool. Funny to think about. I remember too because you guys heard me talk about the podcast that I did for my gym. And, I remember thinking like, "Oh, man, Sevon's coming on, like, this is gonna this is gonna completely change this podcast, like, it's gonna blow up." And it did. That episode did way better than anything else I did, but, like, the next week, I put out, my episode and realized, "Oh, yeah, they don't give a shit about me." They just wanted to hear Sevon. It was funny too because we didn't talk about CrossFit at all in that podcast. I just kept it about his, boys. Sousa inspired the artsy in Superbad. What's up, Graciano? All right. Well, that was fun. Thanks for hanging out. Sevon is traveling, but he will be settled in, I'm sure, sometime later today. We have Austin Hatfield on tomorrow before the open announcement at Mayhem 21.5. Osiris, Sousa wore Tiger Osiris shoes with the fat laces. What they called like the D3s, the Osiris D3s. No, I wore a lot of like Vans or like S skate shoes. I didn't wear a ton of a D3s, like the big ass ones. Not a ton. Oh, here's this. Why we're just scanning my Instagram. First time I snatched 100 kilos. If the video still plays. There you go. Off the low box. 220. I don't know if I could snatch that again. behind the neck jerk. 315. Don't think. Good thing we archived all this, guys. This is like peak. Peak strength for me. Glazing himself. Yeah, that was it. This is the Sousa Bag Show. That's right. That's right. Brad, what's up, dude? Hey, dude, I heard you going to jujitsu. You don't even text me. You just go to jujitsu. Come on. Well, I guess we know Sousa is a grower, not a shower. Is that the good? Was that a compliment, Standy? What's going on? What's going on? Sousa, how old were you the first time you jerked it to completion? Let's see. Let me bring up my Instagram. I think I have it on here. Get the hell out of here with that question, Phil Kelly. Okay. And Muay Thai. Yeah, good for you, dude. Shout out, Brad. That's awesome. All right. I gotta go. I'm gonna have some breakfast, and then I have a meeting with the my Syndicate Crown group. Man, I am pumped for all of our live streams coming up. I was gonna try something. Fuck, I forgot to try it. There's this option. Actually, I'll talk to Sevon about it, and we'll have him try it. Behind the scenes, coming soon? Question mark. You better become a CEO member while you still can. Maybe you'll see it. Maybe you'll do it. No leaks, please. Damn it. Event 1 is a couplet of, okay, all right, now we're just fucking around. Bye, guys. Thank you very much for hanging out. Thank you very much for participating in the show. Eating Beaver, thank you for the $199. You allowed me to keep my job. I get to brag to Sevon about how well it went. We'll be back tomorrow. Austin Hatfield on Thursday morning before the open announcement. We're going to do Friday. I think we're going to do something there. We'll probably have Bryson or Taylor or somebody do the open workout on Friday. Then we have Kill Taylor. It's going to be $1,500 next Saturday. It's going to be huge. Coming soon, possibly one day before the games. Trust me, you guys. Trust me. We would have dropped it weeks ago. I'll leave you with that. Peace out.